Greetings, welcome everybody. This is a recording finishing a session that the lovely panel that you'll see on the screen here did with me at a recent LawFest, all around diversity in work and the changing of the workplace with technology and how law firms are adapting in the modern world. Unfortunately, on the day, the panel was so good and so engrossing, the questions so good, but there were 3 questions we didn't get to finish, but we really want to do them. So hence the purpose of today's recording. I'm going to ask those questions to our panel and we're going to get through those. So it's a really exciting, interesting thing as we see the future of law and how technologies having an impact on that. But that's enough from me. I'm now going to ask the panel to introduce themselves, starting with you, Laura.
Thanks, Ben. My name's Laura Scampion. I am the Managing Partner at DLA Piper New Zealand. I also lead the employment and health and safety teams.
John.
Hi everyone, I'm Sean Bishop. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at Chapman Tripp, and I lead our tech function and our innovation function at the firm.
Thanks, Gemma.
Hi everyone, I'm Gemma Wragg. I'm the Chief Executive at Tavendale and Partners. I was previously a lawyer, but moved into this role about a year ago.
So as you can see, we've got some awesome guests here, which will make for a really lively short discussion as we finish off these questions. So starting with you, Sean, one of the key phrases we hear in legal delivery and new models is adaptability to meet clients' evolving needs. How easy has it been for your organisation to embrace and utilise these new technologies?
Well, I think depending on the technology, it's never easy, and our client needs are always something that we've got a keen eye on, and anything that we can do to help them win and adapt to new technologies also internally in our firm is key for us. So we're always listening to the client and coming up with new ways that we can onboard legal services, improve efficiencies and improve document automation is something quite key that we've been working a lot with our clients recently. Probably one of the biggest challenges we have with these new technologies and with any new technology is user adoption. So that's something we're always keen to get right and really sort of take that agile approach to do something relatively small and then go back and constantly measure it and make sure that we've got an eye on the user adoption rather than going with that waterfall approach where we just build something, lose sight of what the client actually needs or what our workforce actually needs, and make sure that it adds value at the end of that project. So as we've learned in the last couple of years, the challenge has been constantly moving. So you set your strategy up early, a year or 2 out, and then you get to where you think you were going to deliver that, and that game has completely changed. So I guess one of the key learnings that we've taken out of that is we need to be ready to adapt, we need to be dynamic, and we need to be constantly talking to the legal professionals and our clients and making sure that those stories across them are consistent and go back to that value when we're delivering that technology.
Absolutely. Laura, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I would concur with Sean that this is a service industry, so to a certain extent adaptability needs to be client-led, doesn't it? Taking a slightly different tack though, I think in terms of adaptability as a law firm, you have to have a group of people dedicated to driving change. Scale helps. I mean, we're one of the largest law firms in the world, so it's not I'm not going to say it's easy to recruit people, but it's easier to get people on board to drive change. So and I think I mentioned this in our live session, in 2019, we formed a change council to sort of spearhead radical change within the firm, across the firm. And the change council is sort of part of our wider long-term strategy to evolve the traditional structure of a law firm and indeed the expectations of a law firm in the modern age, everywhere connected, platform driven, the global economy. Our Change Council is chaired by our global co-CEO, Simon Levine, and it's got a number of partners on board, fee earners, senior professionals, non-lawyers from across the international business who have a sort of a passion and a commitment to drive change and to drive forward developments in the use of things like, and Sean's alluded to some of them, data science, digital solutions, legal delivery processes, as it were, and business advisory services across the firm. And sort of dovetailed into that is we have a very established sort of client listening program. And that is a program where a business services executive and a lawyer that's not involved with a client go along and listen to the client about what their needs are, in a drive for the firm to adapt to the needs of that client and what their desires are going forward. So client listening, very relationship driven, but a huge part of change in our firm.
That's awesome. The idea of client listening being the driver for change is absolutely fantastic, and it's really interesting to hear, how that scale has that impact, which leads on to you, Gemma, and a slightly different kind of model there, and how you're utilising technology.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been very fortunate at Tavendale and Partners in that the firm was set up on the premise of wanting to do things slightly differently, and so it's kind of that ability to change and kind of be adaptable is kind of is part of our DNA. But one thing I have learnt recently, and it's very similar to what Laura was just talking about, but on a much smaller scale, is in terms of change management, it is absolutely crucial that is right for rolling out any kind of new innovative idea or technology or anything at all. Because we had an example recently where we had a new bit of legal tech that we thought was going to be really, really helpful for all of our authors, and we rolled it out and we thought we did it in a really good way, but we couldn't figure out why it wasn't really being utilised, and realised that actually they didn't understand the why, and that was just a crucial part that we missed. And so I think it goes back to both clients and staff. If they don't understand the why, then no matter how much time and effort and resource you throw at it, it's not going to actually drive the change that you're wanting it to drive. So I think that was a really good lesson to learn. And even going back to something honestly as simple as AML, the clients who don't understand why we're doing it, or why this new text message is coming their way to take a photo of their face, if they don't understand it, they're going to absolutely hate it. So making sure you're on the same page as clients and understanding what they want, and them understanding why you're trying to drive this change, is absolutely crucial for kind of effective change management.
Awesome, I love it. That's almost like the Simon Sinek model of understanding the why and getting it across. Really, really, really good. Now, Laura, starting with you on the next question. So research shows that law firms and traditional model makes a really healthy profit margin. In many cases, sometimes even around the 50% mark, which other service industries are clearly quite envious of. So with all this, is there really an appetite to change?
Such a good question. Look, I think traditionally law firms are, well, let me put it this way. I think short-term thinking is quite rife, or traditionally or historically has been quite rife in the legal profession. Asking partners to divert their earnings towards R&D, innovation, change or radical change business activities is something that's not been historically done. But I think we're seeing change on the horizon, where partnerships understand that in order to change and innovate, then they do have to invest, like any other business, in the R&D and the innovation and so on. So investing in long-term projects is something that I see law firms really starting to do in the future, and it's certainly a driver at DLA Piper. And the other aspect to that, I suppose, is creating a culture and a strategy within your firm that embraces change. And that's where our radical change strategy comes in. And as part of that, people have to be measured on their commitment to change, not just financially, are you diverting your profit to radical change agenda, but rather just whether or not they're investing their time, their resources and their energy into a change agenda and becoming more innovative. So I think KPIs being built into not just partnership KPIs, but the rest of the team, KPIs that are built around radical change and innovation are a really important part of that sort of long-term investment and a change in strategy towards that long-termism.
Awesome. Sean, are we seeing an appetite for change with all this in the background?
Yeah, absolutely. Business transformation and change transformation is absolutely key to our firm. We've sort of recognised that if that old analogy that if you don't change, you die is going to hit the legal profession sooner or later, and we want to be ahead of that curve. So certainly embracing that and looking at all the threats and that from Big Four accounting firms around technology that you've got, they've got a lot more capability to come at legal if they arm properly and they've got that tech piece there with them. And we need to be ready to deal with that. And there's also lots of paralegal firms and legal services offerings spinning up. So there's new revenue streams and new opportunities that come when you start to get involved in that change rather than just sitting back and resisting it. Our goal is to get on board with it and drive it inside the organization, talk to our clients about it and really embrace it. And create a bit of a buzz around it. And it's certainly happening here right now. Everyone that I speak to is really keen on change. A lot of them don't know how to go about it and a little bit hesitant and want to look silly when they're coming up with new ideas. But having those incubator forums for those new ideas to come into the firm and try them quickly and see whether they work. It is great, and it is certainly something that we embrace in every level of the firm.
Awesome. So Gemma sitting in a different spot. Do people really want to get out of that traditional law firm model, do you think?
It depends on which people you ask. I think we touched on this at LawFest. I think a lot of this change is being driven by the new lawyers that are coming through. It's absolutely no longer a perk to be given a laptop and a cell phone. Or to be, flexibility of working, the way that you manage your day. All of these things are changing, and it's all being driven by the expectations of the people that are coming out of university. And I think from a law firm perspective, our best and most important resource, no matter what size of firm you are, no matter whether you're a global firm or a small boutique, people. It is absolutely still your most crucial resource, and because you still need people to drive the tech innovation. So if we're not changing the model in a way that works for and is embraced by the new lawyers that are coming out of university, and not just the lawyers, like Laura said, there's a lot of non-fee earners who are really, really crucial in driving changes. If we're not keeping them happy by changing the model to suit, then I just don't think that the model we won't have the people to continue providing the service that we want to provide and to keep growing. And to keep the industry moving forward.
That's fascinating there, because obviously people were leading change at all angles there. We've seen the clients being a reason to change the model and bring on new technology. And of course, we've seen the happiness of actually having a firm of engaged employees and having that employer brand really, really strong. So that's really, really cool. So moving on to kind of the last question. It's a pretty big one. Now, what's next? We'll start with you, Gemma, since we got you there. Are we going to see the rise of global firms in NZ? Will the big national firms remain dominant, or will we see boutiques gaining greater market share? Will those who adapt and use new technological advances be the ones who benefit the most? The big questions in there. What's your thoughts?
I think there will always be a place for both. I think global law firms are crucial for the industry. They drive change. I mean, even what Laura was saying before around having a change council, that's not. I mean, that's economies of scale. We can't have a change council that drives innovation at that level. So I think there's a massive need for firms to keep, to keep growing and to have those big global firms that are pushing innovation and driving change. But I do think that there's a real place also for the smaller boutique, and I think this comes down to their adaptability. I went to a talk recently that talked about AQ. So IQ and EQ being the ones that we all understand as being, if you've got a high IQ and a high EQ, then that's kind of a measure for success. But apparently post-COVID, AQ is where it's at. So the adaptability quotient is what it takes to be successful. And we just have the ability, being a smaller size, to change direction quicker, to be more flexible, to kind of to respond to changes in client requirements and to adapt the model so that it actually fits with what people want. So I honestly think that there is a place for both, and I think they can work hand in hand. I think I'm excited to see kind of the change that both parts of the industry will lead. Awesome.
So, Sean, in a big heavy tanker, do you still have a high AQ? What's next?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of if we look at the global firms, the existing firms that are here and new ones entering the market, I think it's possible. I think there are a couple of them poised to do it. Whether they will, it's probably quite a difficult time to enter that market, but who knows what the future will hold. And also looking at the global accounting firms that are already here, building their legal teams and coupling that with the tech, I think that could possibly happen. I completely agree with Gemma. I think there is room for both. I think they complement each other. They can work well together. And you see some of the boutique firms specializing in various areas, including tech, and can certainly pivot and be quite dynamic and move quite quickly, which is really refreshing to see. I think that the tech piece will always be there, but it's not just tech. It's that different way of thinking and being able to flip things on its ear and look at it from a completely different dimension. And I think both big and small firms complement each other on that, and you see some good talent coming out of both. And I think that that's where the war is going to be quite hot in the next 18 months or so, is getting key talent into those firms, and I think that's where it's going to be quite a challenge.
Awesome. So Laura, are the globals going to dominate, or do we still going to have a diverse marketplace?
Yeah, look, I agree with Gemma and Sean. I think a diverse legal marketplace is a good one. It offers different choices. It offers better access to justice. And that's something that we need more of in New Zealand. So, look, globalisation is transforming nearly every sector in the world's economy, and it will continue to transform law. New Zealand's been somewhat late to the party in terms of the globalisation of law. Yes, it will happen. I think, just to Sean's comment, which is a really interesting one, that it's not just about tech, I completely agree with that. And I think it's a really important point to make. Those who adapt with sort of advances in tech will benefit. But we've got to bear in mind as law firms our social license to operate, and that is at every sort of level or model that applies, whether it's boutiques, smaller firms, the larger national firms, or the global firms. So how firms are going to respond to social justice, economic inclusivity, whether or not they're environmentally regenerative, all those ESG factors is going to become a big driver in terms of how you adapt, how you dominate this market, and how you behave within it. So it's not really just about your model, as it were. It's your social license, which I think is a really important point in this, in terms of being innovative, being able to adapt, and being able to service our communities and sort of the society as a whole.
Awesome, fabulous. All it remains for me to do is thank everyone for attending today and finishing the session. I'm glad we got to ask those last 3 questions. They were very meaty, and I'm sure the audience here will love that. I've really enjoyed that discussion today. For those who don't know, I am actually Ben Paul. I'm the CEO of the BD Ladder. What we do on our YouTube channel, where this will be aired, is actually share, as well as the business development and marketing tips that we're known for, we also like to have weighty business conversations within the professional services area, just so people can actually understand the issues and get ahead. So we're really trying to help build that kind of community. If you didn't see the initial chat, you can still see us all on stage with Suzie, who was there as well at LawFest. You can actually get an access pass. I'll put a link below in the description box. And of course, hopefully some of these lovely people here will be back next year at LawFest. So sign up for your tickets. It will be a great event as it was this year. And thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.